What's up, guys? It's Mike back with another video here, and as you guys know, I'm a really big fan of professional Apex, but since the Raleigh Invitational Championship back in July, there's been virtually no news about when Season 3 is going to be happening for the LGS. And in a long off-season such as this, the mind tends to wander, such as it does with any off-season in any sport. So, wander as it may, I've created a top 10 list of the top 10 Pro Apex teams currently, as of August 22nd, 2022. And like I said before, there hasn't been really any official action since the July Championship. So this is basically extended thoughts out of the July Championship in Raleigh, and then also kind of inferencing based on some new acquisitions, new team changes, and where I think teams can go in year 3 when it's eventually announced. I've been sitting on this list for a couple days, so I hope it's good, or at least tell me down below what you think of it. But I've made a couple changes now, but I think I'm finally happy with it. So here it goes. We're going to start with 3 or 4 honorable mentions, and then we're going to start from 10 and then go all the way to the best team in the world right now. Honorable mention number 1 is Scars. Scars finishes outside my top 10 list. Mandy, RPR, and Taishin, they are very, very good players, and they often get to a really good spot in zone, but just die early. A lot of mental mistakes with this team. You need to get Mandy a charge rifle as soon as possible. On their best day, they're one of the best teams in the world, but unfortunately on their worst day, they're towards the bottom of the lobby, which is a little unfortunate, but Scar's very, very good, just outside my top 10. Next honorable mention on this list are the Fire Beavers, Taskmaster, Impulse, and Sunset. They are the former Zeta Division roster, and they're actually reformed. They broke up, now they're back together, they broke up again, and now they're back together again. So this is surely going to be the time they put it all together. They finished second they won second in the European Online Championships in 2021, so this is a very, very good roster, and this is often the roster that you see becoming a thorn in TSM side on the rotate. Next honorable mention is GMT. GMT's roster consists of Serdell, Nasky, and Max Strafe. They were able to secure 5th place in Raleigh in July, but that was also done with a absolute sub extraordinaire Rambo. I'm not going to dwell on this too much because we all know how unfortunate it was to have so many COVID replacements, and this is not a knock on Max Strafe whatsoever. Rambo had a special day on finals day. He was just a beast. He was an animal, and the entire GMT roster just played out of their mind. With Max Strafe, it's gonna be interesting to see. They fall just outside of my top 10, but we're gonna have to see what they can do with Max. Final honorable mention team who unfortunately fell out of the top 10 just before recording. This is the final team that I bumped out. Exo Clan is going to be our final honorable mention. During the Raleigh Championships, Dexter, Killapose, and Zicky really opened my eyes to see what this team could do. Killapose, to a lot of people's surprise, actually led the tournament in kills and damage at a lot of points during the group stages. He was popping off, as was this entire team. They were not willing to back down from anybody. What ultimately kept them outside my top 10 was a really disappointing championship day. They had 5 0-point games. 5 of 9 games had 0 points, and they still finished in 13th on that day. That just goes to show you how powerful this team can ultimately be. They just need to be a little bit better on some maps. Now on to the list. Starting with number 10. If there's a team bumped from number 10, that means there was a team that was bumped in to number 10, and that team is going to be Team Liquid. Team Liquid is IGL'd by Nocturnal. Fun FPS is on that roster, and it is also looking like Six is going to be on that roster as well. With their Fragger Guild getting poached energy, this team has a lot to prove. However, as Team Liquid goes, they are always going to be hanging around. They're always so steady. During the tournament at one point, they lost all 4 of their Storm Point games, all 4 Storm Point contests. They were just done. Just 0 for 4 on Storm Point, and they almost qualled on World's Edge. Again, just like EXO, they need to get better on Storm Point, but this team is going to be, they're going to be hanging around, and that's why they're going to be in my top 10. Number 10, Team Liquid. In 9th spot on my power rankings, the team that gives me the most heart palpitations, Cloud9. This is another team with a lot to prove with a new addition. Zach Mazer, Stay Naughty, and then now Rocker, previously Energy Rocker, has joined the team. The Alberlele experiment unfortunately did not work out for this team. There's just far too much cross-calling, but they still did get very, very good results. Again, they were always sticking around. C9 is also possibly the team that gets the most unfair criticism. Zach Mazer as an IGL gets a lot of unfair criticism. They're under the microscope a lot. However, I put them in 9th place because I think Rocker's going to be a really steady addition for this team. I think he's going to listen. Sweet is a really strong IGL as well, so I think that Rocker's going to listen and just shoot his gun and not cross-call Zach as much as Alp did. Next up in my 8th spot, Space Station Gaming. Frext, Dropped, and Zenile. This is a team that, depending on the zone pool, could easily win a tournament. Space Station is going to be one of the strongest teams on any given day. One of the strongest teams off drop. They do not lose contest situations. They force, at this point, 3-4 teams out of POIs that they've claimed, including number 9, Cloud9, which ultimately cucked them for loot on Stormpoint a lot. Next up in number 7, NRG. We've talked about the teams that are always in the mix. The dark horse could win at any time teams. These now getting in the territories of should win but don't teams. This NRG roster of Sweet, Nathan, and Guild being the new addition, has as much talent as any roster in the entirety of the Pro League, but oftentimes, this is kind of excluding Guild. He's off the hook here, but previous NRG rosters unfortunately fail to show up when it mattered the most. They get a lot of points in the group stage, they really rock it, and then all of a sudden in Championship Day, they are nowhere to be seen. And that's not entirely their fault, right? We've all seen the energy script. They get a really, really great spot, and then they're just inted off it, or just die to a mistake of another team, or just, don't have the survivability that other teams might have. But Guild, with his absolute frag ability, he's going to fill a similar role to Rocker and just being the shoot your gun and just absolute mow people down, please, sort of role. But Guild is just another talent, and he's really, really dedicated. We saw with the broadcast coverage of the last championship, he's just next level dedicated. So this team is in 7th. I want them to be better. If they were a top 3 team in the world, I'd be very happy, but they're not. Until they prove it on the highest stage, they are number 7 for me, and I feel bad about it. Now, this one is pretty interesting. Falling just outside of our top 5 in 6th place is none other than Team Solo Mid, Imperial Hal, Reps, and Verhulst. Obviously, I still think TSM is one of the best teams in the world, but similar situation to NRG, they did not really have a strong finals day. They finished in, I believe, I think it was 6th or 7th, but not as strong as they easily could have been. We also might be on the edge of seeing a completely different Team Solo Mid roster in Apex. They just added a new analyst, Raven, who's previously from GMT, and Raven, within 5 minutes of being signed to TSM, vowed to get Reps off of defensive characters, and he said, we need more damage, we're not going to play Watson, no defensive characters, no Gibby, nothing like that. So it's going to be really, really interesting to see how this meta, specifically for TSM, because we all know the TSM effect, right? There's the game meta, and then there's also TSM meta. There's going to be teams that follow them, and sometimes even they create the meta, but Raven is on the leading edge of really aggressive edge meta. I'm really interested to see what his TSM team is gonna look like as well. They're certainly capable, but again, they're gonna have to prove it. And number 5 is Optic Gaming, Duplex, Skittlecakes, and Noct. Team Optic has struggled to get a foothold in Apex and in the standings since the Sweden land. Certainly since Raleigh, they did not have a great showing at Raleigh, but since Sweden, they've really had a tough time of dissecting the lobbies. But before that, Team Optic was easily the most dominant team we've ever seen, probably in all of Apex, and they were that team for about 8 months as well. They were able to operate in this really cool area within the Gibby meta of this hyper-aggressive Gibby meta. They were the team that was willing to fight, and they were built to fight before any team was really willing to take that fight. But now, since teams are becoming a lot more willing to take those fights and a lot more equipped to take those fights, they've really struggled to see results. It's going to be very, very interesting to see if they stick with Gibby Caustic, because those are really staples of their brand and staples of their team comp and staples really of their success, but 2 legends that are basically being ushered out together in terms of meta. So I'm going to be very interested to see. And if they're the only Gibby Caustic in the lobby, that's crazy to say, they probably won't be, but there's going to be a few, and that could actually work in their favor, so it's going to be very interesting to see. In 4th place, Dark Zero Gaming, Zero, Jen Burton, Sharky. This is your back-to-back 2-time LAN champions. LAN champions in which they probably weren't the best team in those lobbies, I will add. However, when the team is this consistent at this level, you just cannot continue to discount them. This is another team similar to Optic that really, really loves the Gibraltar Gibraltar, Caustic, Valkyrie meta. And again, like, it's going to be ushered out, basically. Gibby, for sure, is not going to be played that much, but this team might stick with him. He might not. We know what Jen Burton's going to do. We know the calls from Zero are going to be crazy, and also just the charge drive from Sharky is going to be mental as well. This team, interestingly enough, is also moving over to the NA circuit as well. So they're previously in Australia, and then they are moving over to NA, which actually means that they do forfeit their Pro League spot. So 4th place in my Power League or my Power roster here, but they're going to have to qualify for Pro League. So they should, barring any crazy things happening, they should absolutely walk through that and get a Pro League spot secured. But wouldn't that be crazy? I ranked them 4th and they don't even qualify. That would be crazy, but this team is far too talented, obviously. Next up is Fnatic, and Fnatic is a team that I don't know a ton about. There's Yuka F, Matsutashu, and Melt Stera. They're a team from Japan, and they are absolutely, in one word to describe them, I would just say disgusting. Yuka F specifically has probably the best mechanics I've ever seen in my life. If you can catch a montage of Yuka F, I'm probably going to put it in the description because it's just something that you need to see. And this entire team is just going crazy. Furia and his Watson actually gave them the compliment of saying Fnatic was the only team that gave them trouble with fighting at land. They were just next level, just taking different angles nobody would think of. This team, Fnatic, is going to win a LAN. That's my bold prediction, and that would be really, really fun to see. Those guys are crazy, and those guys deserve it for sure. Number 2, shouldn't be a surprise, 100 Thieves, Vaxilon, Onmu, and Scurry. This team has absolutely revolutionized the meta for the second time around. To jog your memory, they did it the first time around with Valk, Watson, with Valk, Gibraltar, and Caustic when they won the championships back in the summer of 2021. And they did it again with Watson, Newcastle, and Valkyrie this time around. But just like it did last time, teams have caught up to them, and now a lot more teams are going to be running Newcastle Watson. And last time that happened, they had a little bit of a period of time where they didn't have as good results as they wanted. They had a roster change in that time as the meta adjusted to them. So maybe they counter again and come up with a new off-meta team comp that would just absolutely go crazy. But it's going to be very interesting to see how they adjust. For right now, 100 Thieves is probably one of the most consistent teams on this entire slate. They're always going to be coming top 5 in a tournament. You can basically lock that in. Finally, no surprise here. In first place, we have Furia. His Watson, Zero, Tricky, and Panders, the best team fighting team in the world, best team at all in the world. There was a tournament recently where they had more kills than like the top 5 teams combined. Like, that's saying something when they're just able to just completely just mow over the competition like that. Now teams are catching up. We have seen, and we've talked about it in this video already, the kind of shifting of the really hyper aggressive, hyper in your face, just down your throat a meta that's going to lead to a lot of fights in this game. So teams are adjusting, and teams are expecting a fight now. They're willing to take a fight, and they're also equipped to take a fight, as we mentioned. So Fury's having a little bit of a tougher time, but they're just winning tournaments with less kills now. They're still winning. All right, dudes, that is my list. Let's go over it one more time. In number 10, we have Team Liquid. In number 9, we have Cloud9. In number 8, we have Space Station Gaming. In number 7, we have NRG. In number 6, we have TSM. In number 5, we have Optic. In number 4, we have Dark Zero. In number 3, we have Fnatic. Number 2, we have 100 Thieves. And then in number 1, we have Furia. So it's basically like, it's like North America plus 1. I think, looking at my notes, Fnatic is the only not North America team, which is pretty indicative of the issues we faced in the last COVID, or in the last LAN. I kind of gave it away there, but COVID was a big issue, and it was affecting a lot of the EU teams. It was APAC North teams. So it's hard to say exactly what the top 10 of Apex is, because there's a lot of teams that would probably take Furia's lunch and just absolutely just mop the floor with them as well. And maybe that's a little bit of a stretch, but there's teams out there that are better than, I think, C9 and better than Space Station and possibly even better than NRG, but maybe we didn't get a chance to see those teams because of COVID. Hopefully, next LAN situation, there's a little bit more foresight by the powers that be at, the two-lettered corporation, and we're able to plan a little more, and hopefully even COVID's not even a situation at that point. But that's my list, guys. I hope you enjoyed that. It's a little bit longer than I had hoped, but I'll try and cut it down for us. If you guys like this video, please consider subscribing. We are pushing really, really hard for 1,000 subscribers by the end of the summer, and leading up to year 3 of ALGS, I'm going to be making a lot of competitive videos breaking down what I think is going on. Maybe we'll break down some teams specifically, do some stuff like that, but this is really intriguing me and really interests me, so I hope you guys enjoyed this, and please also leave some feedback or helpful criticism down below if you have any. My name is Mike, and I'll see you guys later.